Hello and welcome to Kara's Corner.
Today we're going to talk to parents and kids.
I'm going to be talking to the kids.
I'm talking to the parents.
Obviously. But first it's going to be the kids. My dad suicided and it felt like I had no one to talk to. But that is not true. We both have counselors, parents, and if you have a pet to talk to. And sometimes, if you can't talk to those people, ask your parent for a journal to write your feelings in. And if you don't feel like that you can do that, then try listening to some music.
What's something you like to listen to?
Two of Us and The Impossible.
Okay. We also like to draw pictures. Art is very helpful and therapeutic for us. What about... Didn't you have something you were going to say about keeping it in?
Yeah, my advice for you is never, ever, ever keep the subject to yourself and not cry. You always cry if you need to cry. Because holding it in won't help you heal or grieve. If you heal, that will help you grieve. If you grieve, that will help you heal.
Okay. Very good. Well, the whole reason we started this video, if you kids want to tune out now, you're more than welcome to. This is more for the adults. But she's going to stick by my side here. Wow. I lost it. Okay. I have
keep an eye on
notes.
the timer.
Okay. I've had several friends come to me saying that they didn't know how to talk to their kids about suicide. I've done a lot of personal therapy and research. We have lots of books on grief.
This one's yours.
Here, this one's mine. These are Kara's. Here's some more of Kara's grief books.
This one really helps me. Because it helps me with my feelings. But the one that you have actually helps me the most. This one helps me the most.
That one helps you the most? Okay, yeah. I'm always looking for books that can help her because she's an avid reader. And I'm going to share a quick story on how she found out about her father's suicide. But first, I want to talk about why we're doing this video. Saturday, November 23rd is International Survivors of Suicide Day. And timing is very important when you're going to talk about suicide. So I think if you guys take that day and note the fact that it is International Survivors of Suicide Day, it's a great way to start a conversation about it, letting your kids know this is something that we deal with worldwide. It is not anything to be ashamed of. And I didn't know we had an International Survivors of Suicide Day, but we do. And it is this Saturday. So we're posting it now. That way you guys can think about what you want to say to your kids this Saturday.
Or have a day to think off what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay, let's see. We tried doing this video before, but I talk a lot, so I have to make it really short.
We had 18 minutes and it only lets us do 15.
Okay, so I'm choosing to do this video because of International Survivors of Suicide Day. Let me stress, discussing suicide does not encourage them to do it any more than talking about sexuality or gender will change your child. That isn't how it works, so it's okay to talk about it. We sit down and we talk to our kids about sex because we know that we have to. This is another thing that we have to talk about because it's not a matter of if suicide will affect them, but when. Unfortunately, mental illness runs in families, and because her father died by suicide, we discuss it regularly. We discuss what to do during moments of hopelessness and what is something that you do when you're sad.
To be honest, I talk to you. Other times I just talk to Sadie, my dog.
Okay. We listen to music. We already discussed all the things that Kara will do when she's sad. We have a little notebook where she writes those things. But this is about talking to your kids about it. Parents, it is perfectly okay to admit that we do not want to discuss this topic. Letting them know that you're uncomfortable gives your kids permission to talk about their discomfort also. Like, I don't feel right talking about, it's not something we're going to feel good talking about because suicide is not a good thing. An example that I found online is, I never thought this was something I'd be talking with you about, but it's really important. Having a reference point helps, which is why I brought up International Survivors of Suicide Day. That's a good point of reference because you can say, oh, I didn't know that that was today. Did you know that? Do you know what suicide is? There's other examples like, oh, I read something in the paper about suicide increasing. I saw your school is having a program on suicide prevention. Or use this video. A friend of mine posted something and I'd like to discuss it with you. Or I'd like for you to watch whatever. Just something to get you guys talking. I am a firm believer that
You said
that
that correctly.
it didn't feel like it. I'm a firm believer that words matter. A lot of people will say that someone has committed suicide, but committed has a negative connotation to it, like a crime. So I don't like that. A lot of other people will say that their loved one completed suicide, but completing something also feels positive to me, and suicide is anything but positive, so I don't like using that either. I've heard people, like Kara earlier, saying, my loved one suicided, which is completely correct. I like to say that Daniel died by suicide. That's just my personal preference. Whatever you decide to use, be direct about it.
Oh, yeah, and Daniel is my dad who passed.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because you weren't telling them who Daniel is.
I'm sorry, yeah.
She's going cuckoo.
I am going cuckoo. Widow brain. I'm going to share how my daughter found out about her father's suicide. So about 2 weeks after Daniel, her father, died, we got a few of these books from the Survivor Outreach Services, and this book she was reading, and I was just sitting down watching her read it, trying to process everything, and she looks up from her book and says, I think Daddy did suicide. I just look at her like, why would you say that? In this book, there's like a glossary, and it talks about suicide. I can't tell her. But
I saw it.
But there it says, suicide is when someone makes his or her own body start working. Stop working.
No,
oh my goodness.
They can't make their own body start.
Okay, suicide is when someone makes his or her own body stop working. And I was in shock, and I asked her, like, why would you say that? And she looked at me and she said, I think that all the medicine that Daddy was taking, all the pills, messed with his brain, and he did suicide. And I just looked at her. I didn't know what to say. I looked at my mom like, what do I do? I took her to my next therapy appointment, and she sat in the kids' room playing, and I asked my therapist, how do I tell my 7-year-old she's right? How do I tell her her father died by suicide? And what she told me was give honest, age-appropriate answers. And I've been doing a very good job of giving her honest, age-appropriate answers thus far, and she knew I would make the right decision. So after we left, I went to Kara and I said, do you remember what you said about suicide when you read the book on grief? She said yes, and I told her she was right. And that was so heartbreaking, but it needed to be done. I can't go and tell her that her father just died and not tell her what happened, because mental illness runs in families, and that is not something I ever want to think about with her. That is my greatest fear, and I've shared that with people before. I am terrified that my sweet girl is going to follow her father's footsteps, and I'm not okay with that. So we will talk about it all the time to make sure that that doesn't happen. Is suicide an option?
No. It only hurts the people you love.
She would get mad anytime I would ask that, because we're mad.
I would want to punch a pillow.
These feelings are normal. Your kids are going to have these feelings, and that's okay. It's normal. Be ready to answer the questions that they have with very simple, age-appropriate answers. You don't need to go into detail. You don't need to tell them everything. It is perfectly okay to say, I don't know. I don't know why he did it. I don't know what happened. I don't know how. I don't have those answers. And something that I say to Kara a lot is, I'm not ready to talk about that yet. I am very honest with her about that. I will tell her, I know it and I can't talk about it right now. Maybe one day I will let you know when that day comes, but I can't talk about it right now.
And I perfectly listen. Definitely.
I don't know about perfectly listening, but
I try my best.
she respects that boundary of mine where I say I can't talk about it right now. Let's see. Remain calm and answer all of their questions. In this book, they gave a lot of examples of how to tell children. If they ask, how did he die? You can just say, he died by suicide, which means he killed himself. If they ask why, say, I don't know. Maybe his brain was confused and he didn't know that he could get help. Respond with short, simple answers. No extra details or opinions are needed. It's perfectly okay to say, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I'm not ready to talk about it, but you need to listen to them and what they have to say. Reassure them that it is not their fault. Children are not responsible for the actions of adults ever. Listen to what they have to say. If you're worried about something your child is telling you, do not react emotionally. Kids pick up on our fear and mistake it for anger. The last thing that you want is for them to be afraid to come to you because they think that they're going to make you angry. I found a really, really great response online. So if Kara were to say something that was to worry me right now, I should respond with, what you're telling me has really gotten my attention and I need to think it over some more. Can we talk about it again another time?
I would say yes.
Okay. So don't forget to ask them questions too, like, what do you think about suicide?
Are you legit asking me that question again?
What do you think about suicide?
I think it's horrible.
Okay. Have you or your friends talked about it?
No.
Do you know what to do if you or your friends are thinking about suicide?
I would tell an adult and ask that adult to get them some therapy so they can talk out why they would say that.
Okay. If they have said that they have considered suicide at some point, be sure to ask about the problems that created those thoughts in the first place. We do 20 minutes of worry time from her counselor's recommendation. In those 20 minutes, she will talk to me about what is scaring her, or we'll listen to music that makes us cry. It's a good 20-minute window to get out everything that we're feeling, and then we move forward. In that first time that we did our 20-minute worry time, she told me she had the same fear that I had. I'm scared she's going to die by suicide. She's scared I'm going to die by suicide. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, why would I do that? Like, we both realized we were feeling the same things. And that's okay. It's normal. Grief is crazy.
The reason I was feeling that is because lost one parent to suicide, feel like I'm going to lose the other one.
And it doesn't matter how many times I tell her she won't, she's still going to have that fear. That being said, if someone comes to you, if they tell you that they're feeling sad, don't tell them don't feel sad. I love my dad. Talk to him almost every day. Stepdad. Talk to him almost every day. I told him, I called him and told him I was feeling sad. And he said, don't be sad. Yeah, that's how that works. No. Okay, bye.
No.
Let them have their feelings. We're entitled to feel how we feel. That's not something you can change. Kids have, love you, Dad. Children have a general idea of what being healthy means, but we have to let them know that it's not just about keeping your body healthy and strong, but your mind too. As their brains develop, their understanding of suicide and death will grow and change as well. It's okay if at first they're only concerned about who's going to take care of them. It's a survival thing. Think caveman days. Like they had to know who was going to take care of them. That's normal for survival. Don't take it personally. Kids are dealing with a great loss and need to process at their own pace. Something that my therapist told me today, I'm going to wrap this up real quick. My therapist told me that it is important for everyone to remember that how you grieve is a model for how your kids will grieve. Grief is a small word for big emotions resulting from strong love. So, real quick, reminders. Your kids are trying to talk to you about suicide. Do not shut it down. Stick to the basic, simple truths. Give short but honest answers. Listen and don't under or overreact. Love always, Nikki.
Kara.
And Sadie's down at her feet. Love y'all.